So today we're going to talk about my thoughts on two films that are hitting theaters this weekend. And both of these films are titled in a very funny way because if either of them are bad, I can make fun of them so easily. Like, who wrote this, an amateur? Or, gosh, you gotta drop this movie this weekend. No, I take back, the amateur joke was just a joke. And we're not dropping anything, it's okay. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today I'm actually going to give you my thoughts on two films that are hitting theaters on this Friday, April 11th, The Amateur and Drop. Now, I was very lucky to be invited to see The Amateur in Dolby Cinema by 20th Century Studios, and thank you to Universal Pictures for giving me the chance to watch Drop early in theaters for this review. And then by the end, I'm going to tell you guys which film you need to see in theaters this weekend. I'll give you my positives, my negatives, my overall thoughts. It's going to be a fun time, and it's a little bit different for what we're used to here at the channel. But before I get into my thoughts on both films, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies, TV, and all the news in between. So if you do too, hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, like this video, and get loud in the comments below. And let me know two things. One, do you agree with me if you've seen both films? And two, which movie are you now more excited to see after watching this video? I have a feeling I know which one everyone's going to pick. Alrighty, you guys, so let's get started with The Amateur. It's rated PG-13 and directed by James Hawes, and it's starring Rami Malek as Charlie Heller, Rachel Brosnahan as Sarah, and Lawrence Fishburne as Colonel Henderson. The movie's all about Charlie Heller, a CIA tech guru who unfortunately suffers the loss of his wife due to her being murdered during a hostage situation overseas. Well, Charlie's not okay with the CIA saying, whatever, we'll figure it out. He wants to do it himself. So, you know, along the way, he uncovers some secrets and whatnot. But the premise of the movie sounded actually pretty darn decent, and I'm always up for a really good espionage thriller. So did The Amateur rise to that level? Well, let's start with my positives here and talk about at least one of the performances, because I will say, even though I was pretty disappointed by the overall ensemble cast here, there's one performance, and you know, whether this is good or bad, I don't know, but one performance by Rachel Brosnahan as Charlie's wife, Sarah, that she delivers in the first opening 20 minutes of this film, and I'm like, wow. This is really nice. She is clicking right now. My goodness, she's commanding the screen. She has presence, and probably the most presence on screen than any other character in this film, or I should say any other actor in this movie. And, well, that's the best bit of acting. And I actually, now that I say it out loud, that's probably not a great thing. But Rachel Brosnahan delivers a really good performance within that opening act. I see a movie with Lawrence Fishburne, I'm automatically in, but the way they wrote his character, we'll get into the writing in just a little bit, but I still thought she delivered the best performance. It's just a shame that she had like one real scene. And I also liked a couple of the surprises in the middle of the very few action sequences that we get in this movie. Rami Malek, like I mentioned, he plays this tech genius, and it's up to him to figure out, in a world full of killers, how in the world do you avenge your wife's death and figure out who did it to her and how does he get any sort of justice, you know? So this guy's got a knack for computers and explosives, apparently. This was like thrown out of nowhere. But the dude surprises us with those explosives during these chase sequences and whatnot. It's actually pretty darn cool. I just wish we got more of it. We hardly get any action in this movie. Again, this is the positives. But I will say that this movie could have used more of that to inject some life into this film. I also think that there's potential here, and I would never grade a film based on potential because you got to deliver and execute, but I just think that there's definitely a foundation because the movie, I believe, is based on a novel, right? So, you know, director James Hawes, he probably should have had a little bit more of a stronger grasp on this thing, kind of fell through the cracks a bit. So, all right, I guess this is a good time to get into the negatives because, yes, this movie has a good premise. Yeah, I did like Rachel Brosnahan and what she did, even though it was for a very short period of time. And sometimes the action's okay. But this movie overall is a dud. The writing in this film for me is pretty darn atrocious. I did not enjoy most of the dialogue. It's not too engaging, and unfortunately, in a film that is supposed to be an espionage thriller, well, there's not many thrills for us to be on the edge of our seat for. And it's most notable too with our supporting characters. Rami Malek is a good actor, right? And I do like his acting in Mr. Robot, but since then he's been very hit and miss for me. And here he delivers a very two-dimensional performance. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. Is it in the script that he's not supposed to show natural emotion when his wife dies? But come on, man, we got a little bit more here, you know what I mean? A little bit more oomph, and he doesn't really have that. So I thought, okay, well, if he's not really delivering, what about the supporting cast? And they're also not delivering, so I'm starting to think this is a script issue. Take John Bernthal, for example. This dude is awesome, and I love his acting, but boy, oh boy, what in the heck was his character doing in this film? He's just popping up out of nowhere, just like in the cafeteria, hey, what's going on, brother? And then he's all of a sudden in Russia, and I'm like, why are you here? And we don't ever get an answer. That's the case for most of our supporting characters. They're just there. And these are capable actors. I mean, look at this. I'm about to give you two names, and you should be like, oh, dang. You got Julianne Nicholson and Holt McCallany. And I'm like, bro, both of them, if you don't know their names, you know their faces. And they're more than capable of delivering good performances. But again, it just felt like everything they were saying, they were doing, they were involved in, it was a little generic. And it never hit the mark for me. So it stinks that we didn't have much chemistry among our cast, but then when it comes to the movie building up tension, well, it definitely tries. So I give it an A for effort there. But the movie tries to build up tension and it never does. It doesn't sustain momentum either. There's long stretches in this movie where there's no dialogue that's compelling, action that is non-existent, and then when we get into that groove, you think, oh darn, this movie's turning the page a little bit. Unfortunately, that is not the case either. The Amateur is just falling flat in a lot of key categories for it to be a very successful, or I should say at least a decent espionage thriller. Again, this movie has so much potential, but it just fails to hit the mark for me. So The Amateur is one of those films where it has so much going for it, it just can't execute properly. So if I had to rate this movie, I think I would probably give it like a 2 out of 5. Ooh. That's not good. Alrighty, so that was the first movie of this segment. So let's get into the second film I saw this week, and that is Drop, which is also rated PG-13 and is directed by Christopher Landon, who also directed Freaky and Happy Death Day. And the cast is starring Megan Fahey, who plays Violet, Brandon Sklenner, who plays Henry, and Gabriel Ryan, who plays Kara. It might be Kara. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here, guys. But this movie definitely deals with some sensitive subjects, including domestic abuse. So I did want to provide at least this at the front of, this portion of the video. The domestic abuse hotline, if you are unfortunately experiencing that, is 800-799-7233. And of course, I'm praying for all of those who are victims of that. So the movie itself does open on a very heavy scene. And the film gets into the gimmick, I should say, relatively soon after. You start to see where they're placing the puzzle pieces, and then you get, at least at the end of the first act, the very first airdrop, or what they call a digidrop. So the film stars Megan Fahey, like I said. She plays this character, Violet, who's going on a first date. And it's the first date in a long time since her husband died, and he's the abuser. So she's not trusting men right now. But she's trusting this dude named Henry. He's taking photos and stuff. He's a photographer. They go to this fancy restaurant, and that's where she gets the first of many messages. And she has to keep her date inside, and she can't leave the restaurant, or bad things happen to her family. That's not great. But you know what is good, you guys? Surprisingly, this movie. I did not expect this movie to be enjoyable, because I thought the gimmick is going to run old. And while it does in the third act, this movie, for the most part, is a very good popcorn date night type thriller. And I do like that the film takes itself as seriously as it needs to in some moments, but otherwise, it's playing in the sandbox too, you know what I mean? There's a character, there's a waiter named Matt, and he's just really hamming it up. But the movie does not try to be more than what it needs to be. Now, I would say the most clever the film gets is in the cinematography department, which I actually really like the cinematography in this movie. I like the inventiveness of the different shots where our character is sort of cycling through who the possible players are in this game that she's now unfortunately a part of. everything goes black, a spotlight effect on these characters, right? And then you get these cool camera moments where you start to feel like you are in the middle of this tension, and I thought they succeeded. I'm also a big fan of the moments between Megan Fahey and Brandon Sklenar, because there are times where the drama or just the raw emotion is exchanged between these two characters. It's a particular dinner table sequence in the second act where she's just laying it all out and he's just there to help her, and also talking about some of his life experiences. It's really just beautiful, y'all. Honestly, I think that there are some instances where I'm like, dang, the acting is really solid in this movie. And that's not something you always take away from films like this that play with a gimmick, right? Or what you would think would be a gimmick. So, in Freaky and Happy Death Day, those movies were fun. This movie is fun with a side of good acting. So, I think it's almost got a little bit of a leg up on Freaky. It's not as good, I would say, as Happy Death Day, but Drop in its own right, it delivers more than I thought it would. But the movie is, of course, not perfect. Like, no film is perfect, but I'm trying to tell you that this movie is not something that blew me out of the water completely. So for the negatives here, I think some of the inventiveness we just talked about felt a little gimmicky. I'm going to use that word again, because the actual premise of the film, where she keeps getting these airdrops and she feels trapped, right? And she can't drop anything or she is going to get dropped herself, that runs its course by the third act. So by the third act, of course, I think things start to dry up just a little bit for me as a viewer. And then when the reveal happens, it doesn't impact me as much as I thought. It doesn't land with a thud, but maybe a little bit of a whimper. You know, I think that the reveal, in my opinion, happened when I started to get tired of these different gimmicks. So yes, I think that maybe the execution in the third act wasn't as flawless as it could have been, or I should say it was more flawed than I thought it would be, but it still didn't take away enough from the overall experience for me to come out of this one and think, gosh, they ruined the movie. Because no, I thought it was fun, and I still thought it was fun once I walked out of the theater. So I think that Drop is going to be one of those movies like a Happy Death Day that will get a decent amount of word of mouth, like positive buzz, for people to go out there and see it. It might not hit on opening weekend, but it will hit on second, third, and fourth weekends, because this movie is going to be fun to watch with an audience. And yeah, I mean, I had fun watching it with mine during my screening. So with all of that being said, which film should you watch this weekend in theaters? If you're a movie lover, you're probably watching both. But if you need a recommendation this weekend, you guys, I believe that Drop is the better of the two films. Drop has just got more excitement. There's a lot more of a payoff, I'd say, than The Amateur. And The Amateur, like I said, has a decent premise. It might play better on streaming for those on a rainy day looking for something to watch. But for the most part, Drop is a good theatrical experience. And I believe it'll still play well also on demand at home. It's just got these vibes that you're looking for from thrillers that don't take themselves too seriously. I mean, sure, it's gory at times, but the movie is more well-rounded than I expected. So I would give Drop like a 3.5 out of 5, and I would recommend that you see it this weekend in theaters. But you let me know down in the comments when you see either film this weekend, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, or if you're just sort of stuck in the middle. And I want to know your thoughts too, so get loud in the comments, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that thumbs up button if you enjoy these types of reviews, because sometimes when I see 2 films in a week and both of them are dropping on the same day, I might just have to do this little compact review session, right? Now for bigger films like The Odyssey next year or Dune Part 3, which is Dune Messiah in my eyes, it's going to, well, require a review on its own. But I love doing this for you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in as always, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching. God bless you guys, and I'll catch you at the next screening. And boy, I guess the Amateur pun from the beginning of this. No, I'm not going back to that. Nope, no disrespect.